Hey, what's the tea?
So I'm sipping on peach moscato today, is what I
Mm.
have in my cup. And it's not enough for the evening we've had thus far. I need more. Desperately.
I have Christmas cheer.
Is that a tea? Oh, quite literally, here with nothing in the cup. Okay, got it. Um, I'm sipping on a mango margarita, courtesy of my husband. I had a
We
really rough
love we
day.
love the husband that's making
Yes.
margaritas.
Let me go remind mine that I could use a margarita on days
Keli,
like today.
He only did it because we already have the ingredients at home. He's, sir, if we have it at home, I can make it for you. Like, he's the type where I'm like, oh, I really want tacos, date night. Let's go get tacos. I'll come home. And he's like, sit down. And he's mixing margaritas and he got the nachos and he got the tacos. If he can do it at home, he's going to do it at home.
we love it doing
So
at
he
home.
is like the epitome of we got McDonald's at home.
Absolutely. Y'all remember when we did that challenge where it was like text your like significant other or
Hmm.
whatever about books? He trolled me so bad about how I have books at home. He wasn't gonna buy a book. He was not taking me book shopping. He really embarrassed the hell out of me.
Let me tell you how bad I did that. I sent it to my husband. He responded right away. I forgot about the text thread. And then, like, when he got home from work, he was like, what the hell was that? And I was like, what was what? He was like, you sent me a text message and asked, did I want to play a game? And I was like, completely forgot. The moment was gone. The moment was gone at that point.
Well,
I,
he did good.
yeah,
He
I
was ready.
tried. He was.
We give him A for effort.
All right, so I think it's helpful for people to know how tomfoolery got started, even though we don't really know how it got started, which is such a strange thing to say because I feel like it's always existed. I
We'll
can't
all
remember a time where it didn't exist
we'll have to join our memories together and see what we come up with.
because I know that there was a group chat on Instagram, and then I know that at some point it got renamed Tomfoolery. I don't know where this came from.
So I can probably butt in here. I remember meeting before I had like a all bookish page. I was posting book things on my personal or private page, and T was one of the first like book people I met, and we like kind of chitter chattered, and then I made the leap to have a bookish page, and we followed each other over there. And somehow, Kelly, we found you. I don't even know
We
how
found
this happened.
The
somebody
algorithm
just came
actually
to us.
worked for once.
I don't, and I don't mean to get sentimental. When you join bookish communities, everybody's a community. But I would see people posting all the time about their book besties and how they're close to these people and they would be meeting up. And I was happy for them, but I was just like, how does that kind of happen? Like,
Yeah.
do you just kind of go in people's DMs and be like, I like this book? But it happened so
Yeah,
naturally for us.
absolutely.
And it wasn't until it happened for us that I completely really understood how it happened for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we really don't know how it happened. But somehow we were all in a group chat, and I am big on naming my group chats because I don't like to get my group chats confused. So
Yeah.
I know I was the one who named it. I probably just didn't give
Yes.
Right.
much thought to the name, but
We just logged in one day and was like, Tomfooler was like,
Tomfoolery.
that's it.
And nobody argued with it. It
And
was
it's
so.
so funny
So.
though because I remember I had started. I was probably waiting for about a year, and I was like, "Dang, I need to find some people because I'm trying to get my friends." They like, "Girl, I work too hard." I'm like, "These ladies I be seeing on the internet be working and they be
Hmm.
reading." So I'm
Yeah.
like,
be
"I need to
reading.
find me some real readers." And then it was like a week later, Lee had put up her book of the month for BBB book club, and I asked her for the Fable link. And she's like, "I found it. I
Yeah.
found it."
Previously Fable, now Storygraph.
Yeah, now Storygraph for sure.
We'll talk about that another day, though.
Right. That's some drama for another episode.
It's a
But
different
yeah,
episode.
and I think you're right. Like I think I was the same way. I'm like, how do you connect with people? Because I feel like in any other world, just DMing somebody like I saw your post, let's talk about it. It's creepy. But in this community, it's like it is welcome and it's encouraged. It's like
Like
I
in
saw
your
you post
comment,
about
in your
this. Yeah.
DMs, yeah, and you're like, oh, hey, girl.
Yeah. And so I think that's what I like about it. And so I know, like, T, we started with my, what are you reading this weekend? To which I figure out you're a pathological liar. That is when, That is when I learned that about you. That
I
you will
was
lie to
trying to.
my
Those
face.
were really the things I was supposed to read. I just didn't want
She
to
would
read them,
lie
I
to
guess.
my face every Friday
What was
faithfully
the
and
book
tell
I read
me
for like three? I answered with the same book. It was like,
it was. I think it was the book of the month though. It was one.
no, it was like Kiss Me. It was like a,
I
Say
think it was
something. Listen.
Call Baby that brought us
Okay.
together.
Was it? Now that was my first book club read, but there was one that T was reading, and every week she was like, "I'm finishing this
I'm
book,"
finishing this book, and
and then the
I've
next
only made it
week,
to like page 13.
and then the next week I would post, "What are you reading this weekend?" And she's like, "No, for real, I'm gonna finish this book this weekend." And like it happened for 3 weeks straight, and that's when I was just like, "She's just a dishonest human
I'm gonna.
being."
I didn't mean to be. I apologize to everybody in the comments. I was like, sorry, but I be lying on accident, y'all.
Yeah,
And then Kelly threatened to block me.
I think I did because I was like, don't play in my comment section. I'm trying to cultivate a place of honesty here. And you were just coming in hot every week for no
Every
reason.
week. I mean, I was
With
on it too. I was like, oh, it's Friday. Uh huh. Okay. Better. Fred. Uh huh. Yeah.
So
This is what I'm gonna read.
we
yeah,
identified early on the dynamic of like the older sister, the like middle child, and the younger sister. So for me, I remember we did have like a three-way group chat, group text chatting on Instagram. But these heifers signed up for a buddy read with like four other girls, and I was not
yeah.
invited to it. And in true youngest child fashion, I was like, oh, I'm gonna invite myself. So I remember strategically adding the other young women in that was in that buddy read and commenting. Yeah, they don't even know this. Commenting and be like, oh, I really want to read Curvy Girl Summer. And they're like, oh, more the merrier, join. Here's the link. And I'm like, these heifers didn't even send me the link.
So you plotted and schemed. And see,
Absolutely.
I was like, oh,
Well,
y'all
that
want to read
wasn't
this
my
book?
group.
Let's go read this book.
I think Kelly
Yeah.
invited me. So I was like, well, I can't. I don't know the rules to this thing.
It's
So
fun. I
it was
invite myself.
actually a group that we read thrillers. So Tina Boo reads and Book Talk with Jay. We read thrillers together. And then out of nowhere, somebody was like, well, do y'all want to read Curvy Girl Summer? And I was like, yeah. And so then they were like, oh, Janelle wants to read that. So we added her. And then somebody else was like, oh, I was in the chat. And so like it grew and grew. And then our baby sister here was like, nobody invited me. And I was like, it really wasn't an exclusive club. It just
Like I don't even
manifested.
know how I got into. I don't even
But let me
know
tell
how
you
I
what
know
I
about it.
did.
What did you do?
T T reposted the buddy read, and I messaged her. I was like, "Ooh, I really want to read this." Crickets. So I was like, "Oh." So I went to Foodie Nelly, and
Yeah,
I was
Foodie
like,
Nelly.
"Hey, girl." And she was like, "Oh, you want to be a part of this group?" I love her down, by the way. Shout out to
Listen,
her. She's such a sweetheart. But I was like, "Yes, I do," and I'm
I
sure when y'all
was
see me join
so
that app,
new. I was not trying to wreck nobody's party. You're not about to put me out because I'm inviting you.
In true fashion, what I'm hearing is that orchestrated your ability to connect with somebody else. So you're welcome.
You-
Had it not been for that, you would not have met her. So
and those ladies are
I don't know how
lovely
the story
because we
goes.
went on to do a few buddy reads together, and I ended up
The
reading
Kiss Countdown.
Dark Matter, which is
Dark
not a book I
matter.
would have picked up.
Yes.
That what was that like a
I didn't pick
sci-fi
that one up.
thriller?
Yeah.
Yeah, psychological thriller. Yeah, it was
Yeah, that was one
not
of those times that you
my
lied,
favorite.
T. You said you were coming, you joined the group and everything, and then
Here's
you
the
didn't.
thing though, because we did a collaborative post, and I told them don't add me
Oh yeah.
because I'm only reading for vibe. I'm not writing a review. And they were like, "Oh, write the review." I'm like, "I'm not. That's not what I do.
Just a few words is all it needed. We just needed
No."
a few words, and she was just like, I said what I said, and I'm not gonna read it. So it's one of those things
Ah,
where I feel like people always talk about the bad parts of the internet, which the internet does suck in a lot of ways. But I will honestly say I've only been on Booksta for a year. I haven't even hit a year. I'll be a year in a couple weeks, but I literally feel like this tomfoolery thing has been going on forever. Like
Yeah.
legit, like I cannot even imagine a time. Like I can't think back to when we weren't
when we
blowing
were,
up DMs,
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
all day with books to the point where I can't remember how it started. So, but I think that it just so happened to work out for us that And even with the podcast part, it was like, yeah, it's kind of silly, but I always kind of want to do a podcast. And T was like, I actually have equipment. And then Lee was like, I've been thinking about it too. And so it's one of those things I was like, this is not going to happen. We're not going to do this. Like, we're going to talk about it and we're going to kiki, and then it's not going to happen. So here we are, like, actually
We made it out the
recording
group
our
chat.
first, yes, recording our first podcast episode. So I think it's only befitting that people get to know us a little bit. And so, something that I think is really, maybe it's not unique, but I think like it's unique about our group is that we are really diverse readers. And so, I love thrillers. I like to be scared. I feel like it's just one of the best part of reading. And these two chickens do not. Lee has been shepherding T and I into the fantasy world, into that genre, to the point where like we're getting educated. Like, it's not just cutesy either. Like, I'm learning, like, the reason why I like this book is because it has a quest, and I like quest. And so we have that aspect, and then the romance reader. Oh, do you read anything but romance? We need to get more like things on your bookshelf to just really expand that. But T loves the romance, and we all read a little bit of everything. So we do kind of have this unique blend where it's not just a romance podcast, or it's not just a romance chat. And so I do have some questions so that our viewers can get to know us a little bit better. And so I will pose them to each of you. So, T, why or what is it about romance
Don't
that pulls
popcorn
you
me.
in?
I don't like.
I'm pop. I learned what popcorn
Popcorn.
means. Yes, since I know what popcorn means now. Popcorn to you, boo boo. Why romance? What is it about romance? Is contemporary romance, urban romance? What is it about romance that really
It's just
pulls you in?
really a man that says he's a man and proves that he's a man. It gets me every time. It's nothing
Yeah.
like somebody who want to be all bravado, and then when it's time to show up, your phone died. You was asleep. No, if you tell me, if he touched me again, all I got to do is say the word. The word was said. That's enough for me. That's all I need. Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
So it's that man's man quality in the book. And see, for me, it's the toxic man. I like a romance, but if he's not trying to ruin your social life, your credit, or your mental mind in some
Not your
way,
credit.
whatever
Like
has
I
to
like
go
them
down
like
needs to go
Luca. I
down.
like them like no. Run
No,
my mouth.
see,
I don't. Who is that?
So I
Run
think
my
Kelly's more of the urban romance or dark romance.
for
yes,
sure.
And T's like, I love them all.
yes.
Give
Contemporary, urban, dark,
give it to me.
See, when I'm reading contemporary
fictional.
romance, I'm like skipping ahead to see when does he kill her brother or something. Like, I don't understand when is it happening. And then when I get to the last chapter, I'm like, and they rode off into the sunset.
Yes, they
Uh,
do.
They do
I
because they're in
don't.
love, and
I
that's what this is about.
it's no. It's no.
You do.
So this is a perfect segue to why I have a hard time introducing Kalindra to fantasy. And I have to say that even though her name is Kelly, whenever she acts up, her name is Kalindra.
You gotta
Kalindra
put the
Um,
Michelle
government
at
name.
that. Y'all gave me a
Kalindra
whole
Michelle. I have
new
no idea what
government
her middle
name.
name is, but it's Kalindra Michelle. When she's behaving badly, right? Um, my issue with Kelly is she wants a really good story, but
Hmm.
she wants it in one book.
I
And
do.
some things take time, like a whiskey that's been sitting in the barrel for a long time, like
Period.
a fine wine that's been sitting
Period.
for a
Has
long
been
time.
aged.
Some things take time, right? And so there are so many amazing series I want to recommend to Kelly, but I know that if it's more than 2 books long, save it. And even if it's 2 books, she's going to read the first book and read the second book 8 months later. Like, where do they do that? And when it comes to fantasy as a genre, I know we're in romance. That's just there's there's a few good standalone books. And even still they're 800 pages. Oh, there's so many things that does it for me. But I'll start with my favorite thing about fantasy. So ever since I was a little girl, my first books was like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like the Narnia Chronicles, like most
Hmm.
kids. I love the idea that I have to use my imagination And I love the idea that the world that is being built in the book is so different from the world of my own that I can't just accept certain things as true. Like, so depending on what fantasy you're reading, like if you read high fantasy, right, they will make up different curse words, like different names for animals, different. And so I love the idea that like I had to learn everything all over again. And so, I have a really stressful job. I'm an executive director of a nonprofit. Like, I fundraise and I just do stuff that while I'm extremely passionate about can be really stressful. I love the idea that I'm opening a book and whatever's in the book is a completely different simulated reality. So as much as I do love romance or even thrillers, sometimes those books are too real for me. Like if somebody has like a really like perfect example, Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. Oh my God, I was afraid of Caleb. Like there were some
Yeah.
parts in that book where I was just like, this is, even though it was a great book, 5-star book,
Yeah.
it felt just too real for me. Like sometimes I like a complete disassociation from the real world. People who love fantasy, sometimes we don't keep in mind that some people don't have the same experiences as us because it could be intimidating. So there's different types of fantasy, right? Like most people who are new to fantasy, you're not just going to start out with a high fantasy, right? There are fantasy books where like it's set in a real world, right? It's set
Mm-hmm.
in like New York. It's set in this. So like we should start there. I want to apologize to the group because the first fantasy book that I picked for the group was an adult fantasy. It was high fantasy. It was trials. It was pretty difficult for it to be. The series we're talking about is by Sarah El Arifi. I think I'm saying her name right. It's the Final Strife series. And so book two, I think that's one of the best books I've read. It was the best fantasy I
Book
read
two
last
was
year,
the
hands
best.
down.
Was the best.
Book
Was the best
book
one.
two was great, but in order for her to start making connections and bring back things that she told you on the third page of book one, she had to make sure you were situated
She was
and you
situated.
really understood the lay of the land. She was like making up curse words like maiden's tits, which I thought
Yes.
stood for like the F
That
word or
cracked
whatever.
you up so much.
It cracked me up. She
Maiden's
had
tits.
this. She had this song that I kept harassing the group with.
Do not sing that song, Lee. Again, to wake up
Sing
in the
it.
morning and to see a
Oh,
voice
the
note
tide when
at
came.
Oh, the tide wind came, the stars above. The tide wind brings.
Anya
Anyame
May
brings.
bring. Yes.
haunted me. And every time she was singing, I wanted to throw my book across the room. I hated it. Oh, I hated it. But I will say
I
this:
loved it.
I figured out early on because the Legacy of Orisha series by Tomi Adeyemi was the first one that I really read, and I found out that I need to do immersive reading with it. I gotta hear it and read it at the same time, and I have a much better experience with it. Because again, the language throws me off, and I'm like, am I pronouncing it right? And so that one, I tried to read it. It was Children of Blood and Bone, and I almost didn't finish it. And something told me, and I think, no, I saw someone posted and said that that's how they read fantasy. I was like, let me try that. And that really did change the whole experience. So, but
Well, I need Kelly to commit to see through at least one series from start to finish. At least one.
I will try. I feel like I can't say definitively I will because what y'all don't know is that T is a drill sergeant who has zero mercy. And the moment you commit to doing something,
Do you see them?
it,
You see how they treat you?
it is like, oh, I don't want to read it. You'll read it, maggot. And it's like, okay, okay, okay. Okay,
I
I'll
said
read it.
I'm going on a book buying ban. She was like,
Lee
that means you can't
literally
go to the
set her
library. You have
own
to cancel
rules.
your audio
All I did
subscription.
was
You can't have
hold her
Kindle Unlimited.
accountable to the rules she already set.
Lee can't read
That's it.
billboards. She can't. She
I
can't
can't
read text
even read.
messages.
I can't read the text on the back of a cereal box because it ain't on my shelf.
Because it's not on her show. And she made the mistake of telling this group that she was going to have self control this year.
She told the world
And
it's a post on Instagram.
I
but
did, but here's the thing though. I felt like Kindle Unlimited did not count because, hear me out, hear me out.
I agreed with you.
A large amount of the authors that we read and we enjoy, like we're indie stands over here, published, they write like they're running out of
I'm trying to
time.
figure out how you're gonna
Hamilton's
do
my
any buddy
favorite.
reads this year if you're not buying stuff because people be buying it. I be
That's what I'm saying. So I made the executive decision, T, that
Listen, this is
My
my book buying band. I
that
was
my
ready.
band does not include Kindle Unlimited, and it does not include one audio subscription of my choice. Like, I mean, granted, I had them all before. I did have them all. I don't need them all. One of my choice. I'm still going back and forth because I'm a little mad at Everand for changing its rules, but that's not here nor
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
But I'm still figuring out who's going to get that top spot.
But that's okay. You said the rules. The rule by the individual, having read the book as
This
a whole.
that's a bad
I want you
example.
to be successful, and I feel like
He
you're making
doesn't,
great
and that's the
strides.
thing is that Kelly really doesn't. 'Cause Kelly's like,
You're making great strides, Lee, and
Lee,
I'm
what is
proud
your
of you
subscription? What are
for
you?
Thank
What are
you,
you
trying.
thank.
doing?
You know what, Kelly? Thank you. Why do you
You're
love
welcome.
thrillers the way that you do? Tell us, please.
See how they did?
So for me, I think it's because I can't, like, I'm a chicken, so I don't like scary movies. I still got to sleep at night.
Chicken? Where? What
I
kind of
can't
chicken are
do
you?
scary movies, but it's something about reading it.
It's
I
more
feel
like
like
a
I
jive
get
turkey
to.
because
It's
chicken
something
ain't it.
about it's something about reading it. My mind can control the narrative a little bit of what it looks like and how it's manifesting. And so that's where I get to live like my husband, he's a big fan of horror movies and he likes like the B grade slasher and I can't do it. But for me, thrillers are good when you're reading along and you're like, oh, there's a couple and they're happy and blah 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 blah, and like you're seeing them sit at the table and they're eating, and then like the author say they heard a knocking noise, and then the next scene, the wife goes up the stairs because there's people locked up in their attic, and you're like, why are there people in the attic? Like, and that's what pulls
You
me
about to
in
scare
because
me. It's 11 o'clock at night. Don't keep doing this.
I
so for
I will say
me,
Kelly did a
it's
buddy
that
read with
shock
us.
value.
Kelly did a buddy read on us. What was it called? It was by Isabella
Maldonado.
Maldonado. And it was the first book of her Nina
The
Guerrera
cipher.
series, The
Yes.
Cipher. That book was so good, but it
So good.
was, first of all,
Dark. It was dark. Very dark.
for you to introduce somebody to thriller with a serial
She
killer,
said, let me see if I can get them to have a stroke. Let me see.
I
It
But
could.
I
worked.
I
love
only could listen. First of all, I realized that listening to it was scarier than reading it.
And read.
So I had
I
to read
love
it,
it.
and I had a cutoff time of 5 p.m. Like
Period.
if I didn't
As
finish
the
my
sun is
chapters
going
for the
down, the
day,
book is closing.
I couldn't do it.
I'll be in bed. It can be 2 a.m. and I'm gonna finish it. And it's so bad because I'm so scary. Because if I hear something bump, I'm gonna be like, "What is that?" But for thrillers, I feel like the authors that are really good at that, I found, and I'm new to thrillers. Like I am very new this year, but I feel like they just have a way of just being like, I'm like, who hurt you? Like my favorite book this year was The Good Samaritan by John Mars, and not my second favorite rather. And it was about a woman, and this isn't a spoiler because it's a synopsis, who works at a unaliving hotline where she's supposed to help people, but she gets off on encouraging people to do it. And it's like, who would do? And so in my mind, I'm like, who would do that? Like, who would literally take a call if someone's like, I don't want to live? And she's like, yeah, I get it. Like, I wouldn't want to live if I were you either. And then the person's like, you're right. And it's just like,
That's so evil.
it's evil. But
And
then,
that's what
like,
you want to consume yourself with.
but as the
Okay.
story like progresses, then you get it's like everyone always has like an origin story. So you get background on her, which made her the way she is. And then there's always these great plot twists that you never see coming. And then it's just like it takes those 300 pages you just read and it just makes your like head explode. I think those are the things that are like I like. So that's what I love about thrillers. But I, like I said, I want it to take me someplace else in my mind, but not someplace else like in another world necessarily. But yeah, like, and I just like things that could possibly happen, which is sick, right?
That
Like,
doesn't scare you though.
yeah,
Like,
no, it just keeps me on the edge of my seat. And to me,
so
it's not scary because it's just like watching. But I like murder
That's because
mystery.
you're a psycho.
I like serial killers. Like I am so engrossed in serial killers. It's not even funny. Like I
so
love reading
question,
about it.
Kelly,
Yeah,
is it psychological thrillers or is it regular thrillers? Like, which one is your fave?
I think I do prefer the psychological ones because it's like when I close the book, it's like in the recesses of my mind still, right? It's like, man, Like, what if the guy at the coffee shop really, it's like, and then I'll think about it, or like I'm constantly like side eyeing things like, is this real? Like, could it really? I don't know. I think I like those more because I think that even as a reader, each reader is going to have a different experience with it because our minds are all built differently, right? So I might read it and it might take me to a different place than it takes you because it's really about how your mind is ingesting what it's suggesting to you through the book. And again, what might make me laugh might terrify you just because we're all kind of built different. So I think I
Right.
like the psychological ones more because I feel like as an author, you have to write those well. Because again, a chainsaw killer, that's scary. Everyone will be afraid of a chainsaw killer, right? But a psychological one, it's like you have to really get into the recesses of my mind and convince me that this thing that's happening is terrifying, even though it may not
Well,
be tangible or anything like that. So I think that's why I like those better. I think that's why I like those better.
our next episode, we're going to be talking about the Porter brothers.
Yes.
All
The
things
Porter
Porter
brothers.
brothers. Okay. Each book, our favorite brother, our not so favorite brother. Wink, wink.
We all know who
And
that is.
but we will not speak that name. Yeah, so this is, I mean, our first episode went on longer than we expected, but now you get a feel for what happens in our group chat. We just
Yeah.
started with the voice notes. They should have never made voice notes longer than a minute. I blink and it's
Oh,
4 hour. It's a 4 minute long voice note.
the day I realized it went past a minute, I was like, oh, they
I
messed
looked
up.
at Kelly. I said, "Why did it say a minute and 15?" Then the next one was like 2 minutes 30. I was
Oh,
like,
when they stopped cutting me off, I was like, Instagram done messed up because I got things to say. Yes, and I think they did it during the Porter Brothers, so it was perfect timing
probably
Oh,
because
they
good
did.
timing.
yeah, I don't
So,
think it was
I mean,
book
I
one that
know
was up
this was
there.
just a get to know us episode and we rambled a little bit, but now you're like invited to what our group chat looks like. We get on the topic and we don't let that topic go. We just see it. You got to see it through, my boy.
Got
We see
to
it
see
through.
it through, my boy.
Got to see it through, my boy.
Got to see it through. So,
Well, I think it's important to kind of just share a little bit of what you can expect though from Tomfoolery. So obviously we have the podcast. This is something that it's been a little bit of a labor of love, and if y'all could have just been here an hour ago, you would know how much of a labor of love this has
Like
been.
2 hours
But
ago, really. But
we're getting our social set up. We are, like I said, inviting y'all in to read with us as we explore new books and new authors. We are doing book recommendations. So this has really become like this is our passions coming to life with our love for reading. So yeah, welcome to the Tomfoolery gang. Welcome to the foolishness.
dang, dang.
absolutely. Well, that was tea time with
Kelly.
See?
Emily. See ya.